Institute, and the early part of it being the hospital for children was entirely pediatric orthopedics, but frankly a pretty famous place in pediatrics.
He had a very good experience here. The child was very ill, so I'm sure that part of it, but the fact that people came in and checked on them, and everything from the volunteers who came in and said, can I get you anything to eat, to the people in the hallway, can I help you find what you need? They had a very good experience.
It was much more open, and they were much more patient-friendly and family-friendly. They believed in family here because family helps your recovery. And so that's what I was really excited about, that I could actually see people and have friends come and visit me here, like family.
Tried to make it a family atmosphere for them as much as possible. And in the summer, we would have barbecues on the patio every Tuesday or Wednesday.
I was surprised to see the concrete wall, the stone wall around the hospital, and it was, I think, there physically, but also there symbolically. It was unusual for the community to come inside the wall unless they were bringing a child in.
The thing was, what's the meaning of that wall? Okay, we thought it was to keep us in, but we really knew it was to keep his relatives out. I mean, that was our belief. I mean, he's buried in here, his house was in here, everything was inside the walls. So from that standpoint, it had a sort of a little bit of mystery to it too, again though, you know.
The girls' ward and the boys' ward kind of reminded you of co-ed dorms, or not co-ed dorms, but you were always trying to get to the other side. You know, the boys were trying to get over to the girls' side, and but you always had the nurses in between.
We used to send notes back and forth, and there was a common room where they had refrigerators, and so snacks and meals were staged out of that room, and we would time the nurses' rounds so that we knew when you could send one of the mobile kids. They'd take notes, and then one of the mobile younger girls would meet them, they'd swap notes, and so we had our own postal service, if you will, going on.
It was an open unit. It was one open room with about 15 patients in that room, and then we had a solarium that we used for the teenage girls. I was the head nurse on the girls' ward, which was Hunt ward.
If you were out on the patio between the two wards, it sloped downhill from the boys' ward to the girls' ward. So if you got one of the younger boys who was up and moving around, he could unlock your bed, give you just a little shove, and you would just coast down. Next thing you know, you'd be there with the girls.
I've seen physicians who might be, and other staff members who might seem like these gruff people or whatever. You see them with the kids, they'll crawl on the floor and play with them. It's nice being with this kind of staff, and it's over and over again, it's all the levels of everyone here. I really do think it's different, and I'm reminded when I go to a different hospital or to a different kind of organization. But I think Nemours is different, and I like that part of it.
Dr. Shands would come in. He had a very military, regal bearing. He just stood ramrod straight and would come up, stand beside your bed, and put his hand on your shoulder. And then he would interrogate the residents. And I was old enough to think it was just so funny. I mean, remember one poor resident said, what did this lad have surgery in the past? And he went on to recount some of the operations I'd had in Portland, Oregon, and I'll never forget, he said, and he had a triple arthrodesis. And Dr. Shands looked at him, a triple arthrodesis? A triple arthrodesis? Doctor, there are 5 different kinds of triple arthrodesis. Which one did he have? And the guy was just like, oh, 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 oh. And I thought it was funny as heck. And then he looks at me to make sure I wasn't upset by it and grinned at me like, I'm having fun here.
Team nursing was, we had 2 or 3 teams, and then you would have 1 med nurse, and the teams were the RNs and aides. After hours, we didn't have lab services, so if we needed to send out any blood or urine specimens, we'd have to collect them, actually call a cab. A cab would come up, pick the specimen up, and take it to the local hospital, and then they would call us with the results.
There was a family here whose baby was very ill. And the family, for some reason, was not here. It was off-site. And the child took a turn for the worse and wasn't doing well. And the family was on their way. Well, Dr. Cullen held the baby. So if the baby was going to pass away, it would be held. And he himself held the baby to make sure that he could tell the family. He said, I'll make sure the baby's taken care of and somebody's holding him. Those are the docs we have here.
The guy who used to, he's not here anymore, worked on the 3rd floor. And there was a family they were ready to go back. They didn't have enough luggage to take their kids' belongings with them. So we went out and just bought them suitcases and stuff so they could go back to, I don't know, I think it was Venezuela or some place like that. But he had been here long term. And it was time to go. And then I guess Joe, the 3rd floor guy, I think he only survived about 2 months after he left here. So it shook a lot of people up.
Just still making it family oriented and all inclusive for everybody, to the point where you almost forget that you're connected to an IV or that you have to stay until maybe your family and friends have to leave.
While I was in another hospital in Philadelphia, my house caught on fire, and my mother and my 2 sisters, my oldest and my younger sister, were killed in this fire. They felt it would be necessary and better for my recovery and better for my treatment that I be relocated here so that my family could be closer and I could not have to stay in the hospital for such a long period of time with all the other things that were going on. So even AI took that into consideration and made arrangements for me to come here when they really didn't have an opening at the time, but they made space for me to come here when other children couldn't get in. But I just thank God that they opened the doors for me to be here due to the situation at hand.
I could play with the stuffed animals in the lobby where we got registered. I could meet my friends that I built here, like the friendships. We could play in the playroom or the computer room, and I don't have negative experiences. Of course, you're sick and you don't want to have to be here necessarily for the treatment, but if you have to be here, you might as well have a good time. So I hated leaving, really did.
So my job was to play with the babies at that point. But as the years went by, I became more comfortable. One of the doctors noticed that I loved to sit down with the mothers and talk to them and comfort them. And he said, this is a program I want to get started here. And so the volunteer office chose 12 people, and we went through quite a training to how things work here. And my biggest job is to comfort that mother, and if I can get her to take a break and hold her baby, then that's the icing on the cake.
It's important for us to have really great care services, the curing services for the kids, but the caring services for the kids and the siblings and the parents and grandparents too.
We were one of the first centers in rehabilitation medicine to incorporate the families into those team meetings. One of my happiest days was when I had the team, when the mother wasn't there, fussing about how the mother's such a take charge person and making their jobs difficult. And I was just grinning. I said, oh, this is what I wanted.
If you have the means and you have the ability to do things to help others, and he certainly did, he chose to use his legacy and his money that way.
In 78, we had a snowstorm that paralyzed actually the city and the state. So what we did is we made the best with the staff we had, and for break times, we actually got to sleep overnight in the mansion.
A lot of happy times here. It's hard to pin down on one. I mean, we used to have whitewater rafting trips.
It was much more open, and they were much more patient-friendly and family-friendly. They believed in family here because family helps your recovery. And so that's what I was really excited about, that I could actually see people and have friends come and visit me here, and my family.